everybody. Welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity and a cup of semi-warm coffee with Bev. So, first thing out of my mouth today is it's a double whammy because something I had put together last night I didn't finish the process to downloading it, etc., etc. But take 5 minutes to watch it. It's on Project 2025, which is from the Heritage Foundation in the United States. And during campaigning, Trump made a point of distancing himself from it because it's very, very right-wing. And they want traditional families. And it's a very, just make a point of listening to the video and then go online, Google Project 2025. It's about a 925-page book. Cost them millions of dollars, I think $22 million or something. I got it through BBC, and they were putting it at £7 million or something. But they spent a lot of money on this thing, and it's been around since Reagan's time. And it's pushing back to a world that honestly, guys, never did exist. But these people think this is the way it should be. And if you read between the lines, it's very, very Christian. Though that as a Christian, that's not Christianity, but it's that image that they think the Christian world should be like, which means nobody but the way they want it. But that's not what the second kick in the pants. Anyways, that got just downloaded 5 minutes ago. This one is was listening to Stephen Boots this morning, and he was able to put into words things I've thought for a long time. And I thought, yes, that's a wonderful way of putting it and describing it for people who are not in the systems that are publicly supported. So if you're working in retail, you won't get this part because you're working for a profit-oriented society. And it was privatization of social programs. And his example was using hospitals because we are short on doctors, which I still laugh. If you want to get 100 doctors, you only have 100 doctors. It doesn't matter if they're all in the publicly supported system or they're spread out between the publicly supported system and the private system. There's still only 100 doctors. You can't suddenly multiply them because you decide to privatize it. But his point was, when you privatize something, you now become a business that's looking to make money. That's the whole idea of a privatized business. It's now a business for profit. And so his is, while the governments can limit how much they charge you, because it would still go through, in my case, Ontario, OHIP, they can also say, well, we can't service you, so we're going to send you out of province for that, whatever. And then because the person's out of province, that private company, medical company in another province, I'm just using Manitoba as an example, can charge what it wants because it's not servicing a Manitoban citizen. It's servicing somebody from Saskatchewan or Ontario or Quebec or whatever, right? So they can charge more. And the next one is when it's provincially owned or public hospital, like Hamilton General, Toronto's Children's, Kitchener-Waterloo's hospital, or whatever hospital, but it's publicly supported, Milton, whatever. The Ministry of Education, sorry, wrong hat, Ministry of Health can order bulk whatever and get a really good discount. And those things like scalpels, bandages, x-ray machines, MRI machines, any of those things are still a base cost for that company, whether it's a publicly supported hospital, as Stephen Boots was using, or a private hospital. They still have to have those expenses. So in a private one, it's going to cost them more because they're not buying 15 or 20 or 30 or 100 of these MRI built machines. They're buying one. And so they don't get the discount. Okay, so therefore, because they've got to make sure they can pay their bills, they're going to go for the cheaper version because they need to balance the budget. They need to balance the books. They also bandages, etc., etc. They're going to cut corners where they can because they are a business, and their bottom dollar is profit. End of discussion. I mean, that's just what businesses are. It's nice and warm. Okay, so that was one of his things, and I was like, yes, that puts it to a T. That yes, we're going to say, well, if I privatized it, there would be more out there. Like I said, there's only 100 doctors, there's only 100 doctors. But then you as the patient are going to get less quality from a private. You might think you're getting better quality because there's fewer people, but the materials they're having to use because they got it make ends meet is not going to be as good quality. Then the employees, they're not going to be protected by unions, which I know some people got unions, but at the same time, unions protect people who are being unjustly treated. So they can, I just realized my tablet was reflecting. They're being unjustly accused or unjustly treated because somebody in upper management doesn't like them. So we'll take the extreme situation. We have a nurse or a doctor who is black or purple or green or whatever color, right? But somebody in upper management doesn't like people who are purple. So he's going to bend over backwards, or she is going to bend over backwards to do things that are going to make that purple person, who may be highly, highly qualified, to leave because they don't like people that are purple. Or maybe a little more reality, maybe that doctor is gay or lesbian or whatever, and somebody doesn't like that. Well, if you don't have a union to protect you, then you're at the whims and the issues or the headaches of that particular administrator or that particular head nurse or that particular head doctor or whatever. All right? And that's what unions are there for. And to make sure that everybody gets paid equally for equal pay. So, excuse me, in schools, in a publicly supported school where we have the Federation, in the elementary panel, male teachers get paid exactly what female teachers are paid based on how much education they've got and how much experience. It's a little chart. It sort of shoots me in the foot because I'm at the top of that little chart between the amount of degrees I have and the additional qualifications I have and the amount of experience I have puts me at the very top. So it makes me expensive, which then when boards of education want to balance budgets, I'm the one that's, no matter how good I might be. Okay? So that's the use of unions. Now, I also know that sometimes unions have to protect and support an employee who they're going, I really shouldn't be supporting him, but their hands are tied because they are there to support. But they can also, and it's happened with the Federation locally, where the teacher in question did nothing to the students. The kids were fine. But he did things that online that were inappropriate. There was no child pornography or anything like that, but he's just on school equipment and looking into web pages that maybe he really shouldn't have been looking at during school, after school hours, but on school equipment. And so the union stood up for him, but also said, you have to go do this and this. We're going to support the Federation when they say you have to do this, this, and this. And he went and did whatever. They also changed schools because the parents at that school found out he'd been on inappropriate websites on school equipment. So there we go. So Stephen Boots' position is, before you start screaming and yelling about privatizing things, you might want to think twice about it, because the governments are not looking to make money from their hospitals. They're looking to service you, the individual. And therefore, because they are governments and they can get mass things, they can buy better quality everything. And they can pay their employees a wage that's indicative to their qualifications and their work. And therefore, you're going to keep those people at that hospital, using Stephen Boots' scenario, longer. And because you're being treated nicely and you're being treated with respect, you're more apt to stay longer. So, the last school I was at, which they just didn't renew my contract, I was not being treated nicely. And they weren't mean and nasty. They didn't do anything that way. But there was not a mutual respect between admin and myself. And I had bluntly told the kids, because the kids could see what was happening. I said, I'm not leaving you guys. I will be here for the end of the year. Like, not going anywhere. But one of my thank you letters from the students said, here's hoping you find a school in England, miss. Because when I was in England, the school I was at, I was treated with utter respect and like bent over backwards. If I had problems, I once pulled a student out of a class, and the head of the school was down the hall, and he was listening to me have the conversation with the student of why she'd been pulled out of the class and what she had to do to get back into class, because we were doing hands-on activity that day, and British kids love that. And she was being mouthy to me, and he just quietly walked down. He said, you're coming with me, young lady. And she looked at me. He said, has she got work to do? I said, yes, she does, sir. And I went and got her books. I said, okay, they did all the hands-on gathering the data yesterday. They are to create a graph today to put A against B to see if there's a co-relationship between the height of a person. Now, I think it was the age and the shoe size, but it was something like that. And he said, okay, we're looking for anything specific. I said, the graph is done neatly. And I rhymed off the 3 or 4 things I was looking for. And he said, okay, young lady, you're coming with me. Utter respect. He didn't diss me. He didn't yell at me. He sat and supported me. 100%. But at the private school I was at, that was England, the private school I had, I was bluntly told just to make everybody happy. I'm going, but that's a bullet. He said, I don't care. You have to make her happy. Right. So we can compare this to the school systems, because as a freelancer, I've taught in publicly supported schools and I've taught in privately supported schools. And in a privately supported school, because it's a profit for business, school for business, profit, they cut corners. The teacher's not paid as much. So guess what? There's a really high turnover of teachers. Because they'll say, well, you're getting paid $30 an hour. I said, yes, if you only count the number of hours I'm standing in front of the class, students. But I'm not getting paid for me sitting there marking the books. I'm not getting paid for me doing my planning. I'm not paid for going shopping and finding extra things. You're not reimbursing me for all the stuff I buy for my classroom. I asked for a shelving unit, and they said, no, it's too expensive. I went to Canadian Tire and got it on discount for $8 or something, but that came out of my pocket. That doesn't happen in a publicly supported system at all. If I want wall decorations, like display stuff, in a private school, I'm paying for it. 100%. In a publicly supported school, here or in England, you walk into the supply room. Now, supplies come out in the beginning of the year, and they have to last the year. That's fine. But I know I can go get paper for the walls. I can go get what's called big experience chart paper, which is the great big lined stuff that you see in the primary grades. I can get all that stuff. It's not going to cost me. Do I still buy extra stuff for my class? Yes, it's above and beyond. But that's just me. So, as we're looking forward to a federal election coming, we want to look at our possible parties that are going to lead the country, whether it's a continuation of the Liberals or the Conservatives, and look at their policies and go, be honest with yourself. Don't get caught up in, oh, the privatization, because realize, like I just said, if something's privatized, it now becomes a business for profit. It's not a non-profit business. It's a business for profit. And right there, the schools. Do the schools need to be kept accountable? Oh, yes. Please remember the video I made a month and a half ago or 2 months ago about the stupid Catholic Board of Education down here that went to Italy and bought a statue for the front foyer of their brand new elementary school. It's like, oh, give me a break. Yeah, that kind of has to stop. No, I don't argue that. But when it's in my, using what I work with, a private school, you can't say anything. As a parent, I can't yell and scream and go, well, could you not use that on school equipment? Why? Because the owners have decided to buy it. But those parents at that school can go and growl at that Board of Education going, what did you do? Like, why did you do that? The Ministry of Education can do it. The only thing the Ministry of Education can yell and scream at for private schools is to make sure that they are jumping through the hoops and they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's on, are they covering curriculum? Are they assessing properly? Things like that. And that way, yes, private schools have to jump through so many more hoops to prove that they're actually presenting the concepts and those courses at such a level that the students in question are honestly learning and getting their education for that subject matter, whatever it is. So literally I have to keep, we're in the public school system, I don't have to keep a copy, but in the private school system in Ontario, I have to keep a copy of the original assessment and a copy of the student's assessment marked, so that if anybody comes in questioning, they can look at the original test, they can look at the students and see how I marked it to make sure I'm not discriminating against him. We don't have to do that in the public school, but we have to do that in the private school system. Okay, so there you go. As an election is coming up in probably the fall, federally, think about which candidate you're going to vote for and the difference between privatization and publicly supported. Because one is for business and one is not. And the other one is when it's a publicly supported thing, like our hospitals, our educational system, our military, our infrastructure, they only have the money they get from taxes. That's it. That's all. So if they need more, then our taxes have to go up. So only because I know somebody who jumps through hoops to avoid paying his taxes and thinks it's wonderful. I didn't have to pay it. It's like, congratulations, and don't complain because the road in front of your house is falling apart. Because he will. He'll complain that the road's falling apart in front of his house. It's like, well, you didn't pay your property taxes, you didn't pay this tax. How are you expecting the government to pay for it, to fix it, if you don't? So that's my thing. Like, if the schools are falling apart, is everybody paying their share into their taxes? So that in the case of Ontario, the Ministry of Education can send the money to a particular Board of Education who can then fix it. There you go. Think twice about privatization and publicly support it, because one is for profit and one's there to service you. Take care, guys.